Let me ask you a question, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself here. Have you ever gotten into bed, turned off the lights, and instead of just drifting off to sleep, you suddenly find yourself completely agonizing over some tiny mistake you made literally years ago? It's like your brain decides 3 a.m. is the absolute perfect time to play a greatest hits compilation of all your most embarrassing moments, right? You replay it, you feel that embarrassment all over again, and you're just completely unable to sleep. Or maybe you find yourself dreading a totally minor event happening tomorrow, but in your head you inflate it into this massive, terrifying ordeal. Look, if you are nodding along right now, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. It's this late-night struggle so many of us deal with, but here's the thing. It really doesn't have to be your normal.
So, welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to dive into this topic with you. Today, we're breaking down some brilliant insights from Nick Trenton's highly acclaimed book, Stop Overthinking. We are going to explore exactly how we trap ourselves in our own heads and, much more importantly, how to actually break free. I promise you, by the end of this explainer, you are going to have practical, everyday tools to bring a sense of profound relief and lightness to your mind. And hey, if you know someone who struggles with a constantly racing mind, you'll definitely want to keep this information handy for them too.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're covering escaping the mind's prison, the traps of overthinking, simple ways to control thoughts, the 5-4-3-2-1 psychological method, being active and SMART goals, and finally, solving problems with the 4 A's. Honestly, just think of these 6 methods as your keys to freedom.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, escaping the mind's prison. Before we can solve any problem, we've got to understand it, right? We need to pinpoint exactly what is happening up in our heads. The source material brilliantly defines overthinking as a silent disease. And just think about that for a second. It's silent because, well, nobody else can hear the chaos. But inside, we are taking these tiny, completely insignificant incidents and amplifying them into these massive world-ending tragedies. We literally become our own worst jailers. We're constructing this mental prison brick by brick with our own exaggerated thoughts, locking ourselves away from any real happiness and peace.
Moving right along to section 2, traps of overthinking.
So Nick Trenton points out that there are 3 big, recurring traps that keep us locked away in this mental prison. First up is rumination. This is when you're just gripped by regret over the past. It's exactly like a broken record playing an old failure or a minor argument on loop. You just keep torturing yourself with, I should have said this, or I really shouldn't have done that. Second is worrying. This is all about anxiety over the future. You are actively sacrificing your happiness today by fearing something that hasn't even happened yet, and honestly, probably never will. And third, analysis paralysis. This happens when you have to make a decision, but instead of just choosing, you hunt down every single piece of information. You look at every possible angle. It's kind of like scrolling Netflix for an hour and ultimately watching absolutely nothing. You get so stuck in information overload that you make no decision at all. So take a second and ask yourself, which of these 3 traps do you find yourself falling into the most?
Let's tackle that in section 3, simple ways to control thoughts.
If you just realized you're stuck in one of those traps right now, take a deep breath. We are going to start opening those doors to freedom, and it all starts with mindfulness. Look, on any given day, thousands of thoughts enter your head. The problem isn't the thoughts themselves. The problem is that we try to grab onto every single one and judge it. The source suggests a pretty radical shift here. Instead of analyzing every single thought, just let them pass. If you're eating a meal, focus entirely on the taste and the texture of the food. If you're out walking, focus entirely on the trees and the nature around you. Because when you fill your mind with the present action, you physically remove the space for those unnecessary overthinking thoughts to even take root.
Now here is a crazy question for you. When a negative thought pops into your head, do you automatically accept it as 100% true? Because most of us do. We don't even question it. But starting today, the source advises us to actively challenge these thoughts. Stop and ask yourself, wait, is this actually true? What is the concrete evidence for this?
And you know, when those thoughts just keep coming, piling up one after another, you need to pull out this incredibly simple but powerful psychological trick. Give your mind a strict, firm, commanding order, stop. Just say it out loud or firmly in your head. I know, it sounds almost too simple to work, but it acts as a literal mental circuit breaker, snapping you right out of that downward spiral.
Now, if the thoughts are still swirling after that, go grab a piece of paper and write them all down. And I mean physically write it, don't just type it into the Notes app on your phone. There is a huge reason many highly successful people do this. Neurologically speaking, writing offloads cognitive burden. When you transfer all that chaos from your head onto a physical piece of paper, you force yourself to look at the problem from a totally different angle. It literally gives your exhausted mind a much-needed vacation, purely because it no longer has to hold on to all that information.
All right, Section 4, the 5-4-3-2-1 psychological method.
For those moments when the pressure really spikes, this is exactly what you do. Slow down, take a deep breath, and engage your 5 senses one by one. First, 5 sights. Look around and pick 5 things. But don't just name them. Really notice the shape and the color, like the hands on a wall clock or the specific shade of blue on a pen on your desk. Next, 4 touches. Feel 4 things around you. Really notice the temperature and texture. Feel the fabric of the shirt you're wearing, or maybe the cold, hard surface of the chair you're sitting in. Then, 3 sounds. Close your eyes for just a few seconds and try to isolate 3 distinct sounds. Maybe it's a car way off in the distance, the hum of your AC, or a bird outside. Next, 2 smells. Take a deep breath through your nose. Can you smell room spray? Or maybe lunch cooking somewhere? Finally, 1 taste. Take a sip of water and really feel the coldness on your tongue. Or pop in a piece of gum and focus entirely on that flavor.
And this brilliantly illustrates the actual science behind why this method is so famous. The human brain is incredible, obviously, but it has its limits. It physically cannot mourn a past event or panic about the future while simultaneously processing intensive, deliberate physical sensations in the present moment. By forcing your brain to process those sights, touches, sounds, smells, and tastes, you instantly shatter the overthinking cycle. You forcibly pull your brain back into the right now.
Moving on to Section 5, being active and smart goals.
Let's talk about our next door out of the mind prison. The source points out a pretty universal truth here. An idle mind is just an open invitation for problems. When you're sitting around doing nothing, your mind wanders straight into those overthinking traps we talked about. Action is literally the best medicine here. Staying physically and mentally active is absolutely key. Physical exercise, in particular, has been scientifically proven time and time again to slash stress and anxiety.
But it's not just about running around aimlessly, right? It's about directed action. And this is exactly where SMART goals come in. You want to set goals that are specific, meaning they have a super clear purpose. Measurable, so you can actually track your progress. Attainable, meaning they're realistic for you to pull off. Relevant, so they actually matter to your life. And time-bound, giving you a firm, clear deadline. So the crucial takeaway here is this. When you set SMART goals, you make yourself so constructively busy and so focused on moving forward that you literally just do not have the spare time to sit around and overthink.
And finally, Section 6, 4 A letters solving problems.
All right, here is a fantastic, structured framework for when real problems actually do arise. Instead of just stressing out and spinning your wheels when a problem hits, run it through this framework. You basically have 4 choices. First, avoid. If a person or a situation is toxic and totally out of your control, just walk away. Avoid it. Second, alter. If you can actually change the situation, take decisive action to alter it. Third, accept. Some things simply cannot be changed, right? You just have to embrace the reality of the situation and accept it for what it is. And fourth, adapt. If you can't change the situation itself, you can adjust yourself and your mindset to fit the new reality. Choosing just one of these 4 paths gives you agency back and immediately stops that overthinking paralysis.
To tie this whole thing together, Nick Trenton's ultimate message is a massive reality check for all of us. Perfection is an absolute illusion. Nobody is perfect. Every single one of us is going to make mistakes. Overthinking is essentially just punishing yourself for not being perfect. What we need to develop instead is a growth mindset. This means that instead of crying over our mistakes and agonizing over them at 3 a.m., we extract the valuable lessons from them. We use those lessons to evolve, to grow, and to just become better versions of ourselves.
So, we've covered the traps and we've walked through the solutions, from challenging your thoughts to the 5-4-3-2-1 method to taking real action with SMART goals. Now, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Which of these 6 doors are you going to open today to escape your mental prison? Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do all of them at once. Pick just one actionable method from today's explainer. Implement it the very next time you feel your mind starting to race. Take back control of your thoughts, and as always, keep learning and keep growing.